Okay, Wednesday, 17th of January 2024. So, one interesting concept I've been thinking about a little bit more recently here and there is over relying on a single thing in life, a single factor, and hoping and using this this avenue, to affect change in other parts of life. Now, I don't think it's always as simple as that. This one thing, or if I just change my haircut, change my shirt, everything else changes around me. Or I just do this and focus on this 10 times as much. Or I go there 10 times as many times. Everything else will change. Now, of course, changing something is bound to have an effect and have a ripple effect everywhere else. And it could also sometimes be the biggest or the most contributing factor, either majority or what's called a plurality, the biggest, not majority, of something. It would have an effect. But you see, life is a balance, and there's other things in life at play, other nuances in life at play that affect everything around us. So here's some examples. Because one interesting principle that I've uncovered is when you exaggerate the point, the principle, the guiding principle becomes increasingly clear. So imagine three people. One person is the richest person, say, in the world. So rich, got the wealth. But his health is extremely bad. He can't walk up some stairs without losing his breath, out of shape, things like that. All the money in the world, but the worst health possible. Okay. And the opposite end of that will be someone who has absolutely amazing health, an amazing diet, let's say. He goes to the gym for let's say 6 hours a day, something like that. Okay, that's for example. But he has no money whatsoever. He barely has any cash. In both of those scenarios, those extremes, those exaggerated scenarios, which of the two is ideal? I.e., which of the two would you prefer to have as your life? Well, neither. Because neither of those situations, you're really living life to the best of your ability, to the fullest. So then the question is, between the two, what is a nice balance for you? Okay, that's a subjective question, subjective answer. And then a third person, you could say, this person is, say, 30 years old, and for the past 20 years, 25 years, 28 years or so, he's done nothing, but for the majority of his time, he's focused on playing the piano. Okay? And he hasn't done much else with his life. Hasn't focused much on career, on exercise or diet or socializing or whatever else. You name it, he's only been purely focused on the piano. Now, he would undoubtedly be an absolute professional in the piano. Now, that's not a problem, if that's your goal, if that's your priority. But every other aspect of his life would have suffered, in theory. 25 years of neglect would, in theory, be really bad. His social skills, for example, his driving skills, you name it. I don't know, even how to use a knife and fork could be quite as bad, depending on other factors. But even in that scenario, is that an ideal life that you want? Again, it's a subjective answer. It's a rhetorical question. Well, subjective totally. Yes, no, maybe, depends. But understand that life is a balance. Now, if we want to really have a fulfilling life, we're going to realize that 24 hours in a day, with 24 hours in a day, we're going to realize that there's some limitations, naturally, and we can't do everything. Okay, so we have to choose, be picky, be selective, be discerning. What is the biggest bang for the buck, let's say, the most efficient thing we can do right now in our time? Focus on this, focus on that. Some things are going to suffer naturally because we want other things to excel, like the guy with the piano, the guy with the money, and the poor health, the guy with the health and no money. If you focus on one thing, everything else is going to suffer. So, life is a balance, I've come to realize, and that by focusing on one thing too much, it can lead us down this path where we are overly focused on that, and we are risking neglecting other aspects of life that could be to our detriment. If we focus too much on this and give too much attention to this thing over here, then everything else is likely, again because it's subjective life, to suffer. Therefore it's to our detriment. Therefore our standard of living is risking to go lower, to decrease. And then you could say that's the trade-off you take in life, whether to focus on this or focus on that, because everything has got opposite reaction. You do this, opportunity cost, you can't do that. Or if you do this, then you have to do that. Opportunity requirement then, or yeah. So it's like if you just focus on one thing too much, it's to your detriment. So I've realized that we need to have a nice balance of things, depending on what your goals and priorities are. I want to achieve this, this, and this, and this, 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, 4 weeks in a month, 12 months in a year. How can I achieve X by Z? How can I achieve X by date? Therefore, I need to think. Not only do I need to think long term, think multiple steps ahead. Right, I want to do this on the 10th of April, but on the 10th of December, okay, I need this. And 2026, we need this in place. So therefore, reverse engineer it today. That's fine. But we want to be careful where we put our attention in life. I've come to realize that. Too much of one thing and other aspects of life can suffer. And if you focus on too much of this as well, for too long, other aspects really suffer. And then the longer that goes on, the bigger that difference is. That difference becomes bigger and becomes more impactful in our lives. The guy with the piano, professional at piano, but social skills could be absolutely down the drain. Exactly. Now, if you want that, yes, no, maybe. But that I can quite confidently say is not an ideal, not an optimized life for living. And if that's suffering, it's going to have knock-on effects other aspects of life. If our social skills are down the drain, how easy would it be to make friends? Make friends and influence people? There we are then. A professional in this, in one specific thing, but everything else is so low, such a low level compared to this, and it's getting bigger and bigger. That disparity is getting bigger and bigger. Therefore, the bigger the impact will have on your life. Things worth thinking about. So I realized this just through socializing. By just focusing on one thing too much, it's at the detriment to everything else. And then it's down to you if that's the kind of focus and priority you want to have. Focusing a lot on this, or on that, or on this, or that. And everything else risks suffering because we've only got 24 hours in the day. So that's something interesting interesting thought I had recently, but I wanted to share. Over-relying on one thing. Yeah, over-relying on one thing and other aspects of life. Life is a balance. Yeah. So otherwise, you will see me tomorrow.